Joe, appreciate you being so grateful with your time to spend 20, 25 minutes talking around stress, mental health, and all things in between. One of the reasons that prompted me to get in touch with you was I've come across you a couple of times. I've watched a couple of videos of yours. I've listened to podcasts that you've been a guest on. And the thing that stood out to me most was you say, rather than talking about mental health, we should talk about psychological well-being. What I'd like to do today is to talk a little bit about that. The reason being is I set up this podcast to talk around topics that are trending, and I did a topic with a psychologist, and it got a mental health coach, and it got the most downloads, 10 times more than anything else I've ever done. So it prompted me to reach out more. First thing I want to focus on is dealing with stress and addictive behaviour. So if you don't mind, if you could give the audience an introduction to who you are.
Certainly, yeah. My name's Dr. Joe Delaney. I've got a PhD in medicine, and my subject area really is how what goes on between the ears impacts upon the body, but also what happens in the body impacts upon our thinking as well. And so the reason I'm in this field is for many years I suffered the horrible effects of stress, anxiety, depression, heavy drinking, overeating, and all those sorts of things, you know, those comfort-seeking behaviors. And at the end of this process, because I really didn't have a clue what was going on with me, I had quite a massive nervous breakdown. And it was in the process when I was getting better from that nervous breakdown that I sort of had a breakthrough, to be honest with you. And I was sort of, at the time, I was looked after by an occupational therapist and a staff nurse who'd been on a person-centered, humanistic approach to basically dealing with life and its problems. Are we okay so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and what they showed me was really that I hadn't been, or this is what I saw from what the questions they were asking me, that I hadn't really been living my own life. I'd been living the life that everybody else thought that I should live, you know. And that's what I realize now. So all my stuff now is about helping to put people back to their essential selves and to get them to work from there. And so in this breakdown really became a breakthrough, and, you know, it could have been much, much worse. So after coming out of that, I then went into a completely different field then. I went into the field of something called mind-body medicine. And basically that's how the mind generally sends information down to the body, but we can also change that around and work with the body to help to change our mind. You know, so I don't know whether that's made any difference. So really what you've got here is a health professional who can talk in all sorts of neuroscientific terms, but also because I've been through the process, I understand at a deeper level what people are going through.
Well, first off, if we back up to the very first point there, I watched an interview a year ago, so I might be a year out, but congratulations on 27, 28 years of no alcohol.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
No worries. And the second point was, I laughed a little bit in the middle of that because you used a couple of big words, and that was one of my fears when I was interviewing you from some of your podcasts. I've seen you use big words to explain stuff and you break it down. So I was like, at what point in this interview is he going to use one of those big words to explain things? Look, one of the highlight points from an interview I watched that you put down was change the way the heart works to change the way your head works. Yeah. I loved that. And that led into your I am approach. I don't know if that's still something you're talking about. If it is, do you mind spending a couple of seconds or a minute or two talking about that?
Certainly, yeah. I've developed this approach over the last 30 years, and it's really I am. Obviously stands for I am, me, you know, this is who I am. But also, from my point of view, it stands for internal asset management. And what we tend to do, the assets really are our innate capabilities and skills. These are the things that we're born with and that are natural to us. And most of us, when we're born, we have all these potentials, but they get knocked out of us really by the society that we live in. So the society we live in is mostly negatively based, and it focuses on the weaknesses in a person rather than the strengths. So this I am approach is a strength-based approach. It focuses on what's strong in the individual and not what's wrong with the individual. because that's what we tend to do. We tend to look at the defects, and we try to get people to use their unnatural capabilities to try and change these defects to fit in line with the society that we live in. The I am approach is, do you understand what I mean? So
Yeah.
really, again, it's helping people to get back to their essential natures before they were clobbered by the material world and by societal conditioning and all that. So really, I think what it is that in the I am approach, we don't need to learn anything. In fact, we need to let go of our learning and restore ourselves to who we essentially are. You know, what I say is, metaphorically, we've got to decapitate ourselves and just throw our head away and start to work from a heart-focused perspective. And that's what I did. It's changed my life totally now. I don't blag anymore. All my life was about blagging. It was about ducking and diving and dodging and weaving. And I would watch your face, Ryan, and then I would say something and you would grimace, and then I would change my story in order to sort of try to please you and fit in line with what you were thinking. I don't do that anymore. This is who I am. This is how I present myself. I'm okay with me. End of story.
Joe, I love that, and I think very few people on this planet are okay with themselves. The bit that resonated with me most around the I am approach was it seemed quite close to the theory that I came across of identity versus role.
Yeah.
And that for me was huge. I always would rate myself as a human being on how many deals I could close, where really, like, that's just a small part of me. I'm a great person. At the core, I'm great. I may not be a 10 out of 10 in this area, but that doesn't change the 10 out of 10 human I am. And the way you broke it down just made it more easier to understand. And I suppose it just put those two wires that were kind of frizzing in my head together. The other thing you talk about is you mentioned in an interview that it's more mental health. It's more than just thinking. You say that most people are unaware of how emotions process. Can you give me an example of that?
Sure, mate. It's like when you wake up on January the 1st and you say to yourself, right, I want to stop eating so many cakes and chocolates. Okay. And you really mean it, don't you? So cognitively, in your thinking mind, you're thinking, right, I've got to really do something about this. So you apply all your willpower to not having any more chocolates. And for about 10 days, you're doing really well, right? Except it's very exhausting, you know, to keep gritting your teeth and getting on with it. And so on day 11, the thought comes in, I've worked really hard today. Surely one little bit of chocolate can't harm me, you see. And that's not your cognitive mind, because your cognitive mind is wanting to change its behavior. There's 4/5 of information that are being processed below the level of our consciousness that really direct our thinking in the end. So this is the feeling component. So if you like, we've got, I'm going to say some technical words now. Yeah. We've got cognitive and affective components in our brain. That's the thinking and the feeling. It's the feeling bit that always wins out in the end. You see what I mean? So it hijacks us. It's called an amygdala hijack. It hijacks us, and despite our best intentions, we fall back into those deeply processed old habits.
And is it just a case of like you versus your mind in, I'm not going to eat that piece of chocolate, and then if you do it, it becomes easier every single time?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
Sorry, I didn't explain it very well. You're saying that the thinking hijacks our brain. Is there a way that we can talk to ourselves so that we don't have that piece of chocolate, or is that just human nature?
Yeah, I think that we can talk ourselves. It's really about being comfortable with who you are. Okay. And so rather than saying, yes, I can, yes, you can, and doing that, what I call the boot camp approach, which is all more stress, more effort, right? We've got to get to a place where it's almost like a 0 point, where we're comfortable with ourselves. And when you're in that 0 point through various breathing techniques called mindful breathing, once you get to that point, everything changes then. So the problem is, the thinking's not the problem. It's the lack of power to actually carry on these processes, that's a problem. So the question really is, where can I get the power from to change these destructive and unhealthy behaviors? And that's basically what the I am approach is. And it's what I was shown is, rather than use my cognitive mind and my willpower, there's a deeper place that's in all of us, like the essential self or the authentic self. When we're in that place, then change becomes much, much easier.
So if I've got this right, is by eating that piece of chocolate, it can have us talk negatively to ourselves and have negative thoughts, and as a result, we think less clearly, and then we have lack of power.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then what most people do is we have this deeply critical part of us where we set up a plan for ourselves. So we've got all these expectations, and when we fail, then we start to criticize ourselves, which again disempowers us even further. The whole idea about behavior changes, you've got to be sort of relaxed with it. And if you do fail, it's okay, not to worry, you know, and you let yourself off the hook straight away. It's really this sort of sticking rigidly to a plan that exhausts people. And then they just say in the end, oh, I've tried that, and they forget it. Because in my drinking, I really, really knew that I needed to stop drinking. And I meant it with all my heart and soul. I used to say to people, I swear to you, I'm giving it up, right? Because it's not doing me any good. It's causing me problems. It's causing you problems. I see the error of my ways. And Ryan, I really, really meant it. However, the emotional side of me was always building up another excuse for why it needed another drink. But this went on below the level of my consciousness. So the I am approach is really helping people to become more conscious about their unconscious motives.
Okay. Another one, sleep. How important is it, and does it impact, or does it have a big impact on stress?
Absolutely essential. We need 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, you know, all this stuff. Because what happens in sleep is, in a normal, healthy person, they still need 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. What actually happens is the brain goes into a different pattern. It goes into a really deep state, and that's called rest and recuperation. That's the recovery phase, right? And we need that because most of us, you know, most of us are sort of hard working and plowing ourselves into the day. We need that rest and recuperation phase to reset and to get back to what they call homeostasis, which is normal, healthy balance. However, if your head's battered and you try to get to sleep and you've got a 1,000,000-mile-an-hour brain, right? It's not that your cognitive problem, this is not a cognitive problem, it's an emotional problem. And they're normally associated with fear. You know, what will I say tomorrow? What will I do? Will I have enough money for the future? What about the health of me and my family? All those thoughts are playing on our mind, right? And we're trying to get to sleep. And then we might take sort of drink or medications to get to sleep. That makes us more toxic. You know, well, most people I know, or like myself, I was completely and utterly filled with toxicity, you know. And so really, conscious business to me is, I call it, you know, mind your own business. And when I say mind your own businesses, mind the business of your own health and well-being. Put that first and foremost, and then you'll start to be able to see clearly how you can help other people then. So sleep's important. And then what actually happens is the heart actually, the heart rate goes right down in sleep, you know, and that's all part to do with the mind, because the heart and the mind, or if you like the brain and the mind, no, the brain and the heart are intimately and intricately connected.
So you say sleep's important. You mentioned the word breathing earlier on. Is that equally important?
Yeah, because what happens in sleep is, well, there's two parts of our nervous system that are important. One's an accelerator and one's a brake. Most people are living with the brake full on and the accelerator full on at the same time. Okay, and basically breaking out the, you know, burning out the brake discs and stuff like that. So what we really need to do is we need to find some sort of a way to reset the balance. We all need some acceleration, we all need some brake, but they just need to work in a more coherent and cooperative way. That's where mindful breathing comes in.
Okay. People's inner circle, and I'm aware that there's people that can't suddenly change their inner circle depending on the circumstances or where they live or how they live. But is your inner circle important to how you think? Do you think that people should be aware of their inner circle? I'm also conscious of how difficult it can be for some people to get rid of the negative out of their inner circle. So I don't know if that's something that is even worth talking about. I just took note of it.
When you say inner circle, what do you mean by that?
The closest 5 or 6 people that you hang around with, they can have an impact on how you think, how you feel, how you view the world. I know that the first 7 or 8 years of your life have a massive impact on your future life, the parent, adult, child, for anyone who studied that. But equally now, if I look at my 5 closest friends, if they're negative, if they're not positive, if they're all down, does that have a greater impact of affecting me in comparison to if I hang around with people who are getting the correct amount of sleep, who are upbeat, who are positive? Is your inner circle, your kind of 5 or 6, 7, 8 closest people important?
It's, of course it's important, mate, but if being around them is draining you and it's unhealthy for you, right, then they become less important than your health. This is what I had to learn. One of my biggest failings was, and I've got loads, was people pleaser. I'd be in a negative situation. I'd be listening to negative comments all the time, and I could feel my energy draining. It's almost like being in the company of a whole load of psychic vampires, who are basically, they're all upbeat and talking away in a negative way. But if you're a sensitive person, this will draw all your energy out, and then you feel demotivated and demobilized and everything afterwards. So what I've learned is, if I'm in a negative situation, it's my choice whether I stay there or not. And so if people around me are negative, I just don't even have to make excuses. I'll just say I'm off, I'm going now. And I've lost many, many so-called friends, right, who were just acquaintances because I don't now correspond or resonate with their frequencies anymore. What it's come to, here's 2 words that I've sort of made up, and it's rawsome. That means I'm having a completely raw and real and awesome life, and raw authentic as well. I've just become honest, mate, you know what I mean? And this is who I am. This is what you're getting today. But I was never like that. I would change my way I spoke. I would change everything to please other people. And now I don't anymore. It's not that I'm selfish. It's just that I've become much more aware about my own health, my own energy, and my own needs first and foremost. And I think that we've almost been on this planet, we've been duped, right, into the belief that you will be happy if you help other people before you help yourself. I think it's the biggest lie that anybody's ever told me. You get to heaven by helping others first and foremost. To me, that's the greatest lie my mother and the church and everybody else ever told me.
Joe, if I'm completely honest with you, the real reason why I got in contact with you, because I could relate massively in the sense that you say you're a people pleaser. I am too. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a rescuer, and I own my own business, and I've been doing it for 3-4 years. And what I've done all those personality things, DISC and that, and you're able to identify what personality style someone is. But there are people out there who are very transactional led, as they just view you as a transaction, and once you've done that transaction, they're on to the next thing. Whereas to me, I find it difficult to view things as just transactions. I like to be social. I like to talk to people, and I've been working hard over the last 18 months or so on making sure that I put myself first. And being honest, I just wanted to make you aware that that was the real reason why I got in touch, because I could see similar comparisons between the two of us, and just liking people. Back to the start of the interview, I mentioned around you'd rather call it or talk about psychological well-being rather than labeling it mental health. Can you explain why?
Yeah, mental health to me, most people think that's to do with thinking, right? And they forget the emotional side of things, because we deny our emotions. We've been brought up to sort of swallow down our emotions and just work from the head, So this is, as I mentioned, 2 words, cognitive and affective. The cognitive is the thinking mind, it's up here. But the midbrain, right, is the emotional processing mind. That's the bit that we talk ourselves out of most of the time. So there's a conflict within us we've got thinking on the one hand and feeling on the other hand. There's a conflict all the time because our thinking, you know, our ego, let's call it an ego. We all have these egomaniacal plans of how we're going to be successful in the world. Everyone's going to love us. We're going to find the woman of our, or the man of our dreams. You know, we're going to make loads of money and go off to the Caribbean and all that. That's like some sort of egomania, right? And somebody told you when you were young, you know, you can be and have anything you like. That was another line, mate, you know what I mean? But, you know, so the whole point is, right, be who you are, not what you think everybody else or everybody else is telling you to be, you see. And that's what I found is, so to go back to 1/5 of our information processing goes on in our cognitive mind, our thinking, but 4/5 of information processing goes on in our emotional components. And most of the time we've got no idea because it's below the level of our consciousness. And what I've learned is, I've learned to sit with myself, because I couldn't sit with myself for more than 5 minutes without my head going off on one and being distracted. I'd have to get up and do something. I had no peace of mind because my ego mind was driving me insane. But there's a deeper part of us, the deeper part of us, or if you like, the higher self. That's like a paradox. The deeper you go, the higher you get in thinking and the more honest you become with yourself. And that's the thing, Ryan, you know, if I said to you, you know, let's be honest, Ryan, what do you really, really want in life? What do you really want more than anything else in your life? And don't ask your head, ask your heart, what do you really want in life?
What do I really want in life?
Yep.
To wake up happy and have problems that I can deal with to keep me busy.
Why would you need to have problems to deal with to keep you busy, to keep your mind occupied, you mean?
Yeah, to keep my mind occupied.
Okay, so what have I said? That mind is the problem. Okay, yeah. So if you need things to keep that occupied, that's in control of you rather than you being in control of it.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so there's more than two parts of the self. There's 3 selves, if you like. There's like one that's associated with your gut instinct, right, and your ego, right? There's a heart and there's a head as well. Generally speaking, most people work only on 2 of those. That's gut, head, head, gut, gut, head, head, gut. The heart is in the middle of these 2. And if you talk about transactions, are you okay with transactional analysis?
Yep.
Okay, well, TA talks about the 3 selves, doesn't it? It's the child self, the parent self, and the adult state. Most people have got no idea whatsoever what the adult state is. That's because the parent tells them that they're an adult when they're really a child, you see. So what we need to do really is, if you're sitting comfortably and you're okay with yourself and you don't feel pushed to do anything that you don't need to do, and you can have a relax and you feel comfortable with yourself, that's when you're in your adult. But if you can't sit down for more than 5 minutes without your head talking you out of sitting down for 5 minutes, that's when you're in this conflict situation. Okay, so how do you get into adult? You can't think your way into adult. You've got to breathe and feel your way into adult.
And obviously sleep plays a massive important part in that as well.
Well, it does. But you can't force yourself to go to sleep, can you? That's the whole point.
No, true.
So, honest to God, mate, I mean, people talk to, you know, people who blag in their way are still blagging their way. They're trying to be psychologically positive. All this power of positive thinking, to me, and I'm only talking about me, again, it's another con, right? It's another con. Comfortable thinking's fine. Balanced thinking is fine, right? If you're okay and you feel okay in yourself, then you'll think more clearly and you'll be able to make more quality decisions. But if your head's driving you on, or some sort of external pressure because of financial insecurity and all that's driving you on, you'll never ever have peace of mind. The most important thing to me these days is, Joe, have you got peace of mind? Yep. Carry on then. Right. Joe, have you got peace of mind? No. What's causing the disturbance? It's this. Can you do anything about it? No, let it go. Can you do something about it? Yeah, get it done. Right. It becomes really, really simple in the end. So, it's like the Serenity Prayer, mate. Sorry to butt in. It's like the Serenity Prayer in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm still in AA because that's where I learned how to find myself. right? And it's got nothing to do with religion. People on the outside don't know how these 12-step programs operate. In my experience, and I've got a lot of experience, right, they're really designed to help you to stop looking outwards and expecting, and it's to start looking inwards and start inspecting. And when you start inspecting, you can really truly find out who you are and what drives you from your core essential selves. People used to say to me, be yourself. And I thought I was being myself. Couldn't be further from the truth, mate. Right, I was conning myself. My old fella who comes from Dublin, and he's, God bless him, you know, but he still talks to me. I've still got all his teachings coming in all the time, you know. He used to say to himself, son, think for yourself, play it by ear, and to your own self be true. And I used to say, okay, Dad. I didn't have a clue what he was talking about, but I do now.
Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of just control the controllable.
No, it's about letting go of control. That's the whole thing. Is we have this sort of thing that we can control everything. I'll say this in a certain way and I'll subtly influence that person to do this, and they might say, oh yes, I'll do that, get round the corner and tell you to F off. It's about not controlling anything outside of yourself. It's about regulation, if you like, from inside of yourself.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense, because previous to me it was, if I can't control that, then I just don't spend time and don't worry about it.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes you think that, okay, I can't do anything about that. I'll forget it now and put it on the back burner. And if you don't know how to do it, it'll keep sneaking in. I wonder if I can actually do something about that. Maybe you'll try and twiddle this bit. See, it's got you again, isn't it? Right. And when you're emotionally engaged, because that's how marketing works, isn't it? There's somebody there throwing the hook out all the time, right? And then they're making it more appealing, so they throw the hook out even more, you know. And it's up to you not to take the bait. Yeah. And in order to be able to not to take the bait, first of all, you've got to realize that the bait's being cast, right? And most people, like myself, I didn't have any idea that I was basically being hooked every single day of my life, right? If you do this, you'll make money. If you listen to my podcast, you'll get this. If you do this, in the end, right, this is where I'm up to now. How do you really feel about that, Joe? Do you want to engage with it? Nah. Okay, carry on then. See, I'm in a point now where I don't feel moved in any way, shape or form unless something inside me moves me. If you're a religious person, you could say being moved by spirit, right? Most people are moved by their head, nothing any deeper than that, you know. Yeah. Is this making some sort of sense?
You know, it is. And you've got to a place in life that very few have gotten to. There's so many people that worry. And kudos to you for getting to that place. Yeah.
See, Ryan, it wasn't easy, mate. You know, I mean, talking about it's dead simple. But I'm writing a book at the moment. Well, I'm trying to. You know, I've got all sorts of other things going on. But the book is called, right, There's No Effing Stress If You Focus on Feelings First. Right. And when I say effing, that's the word F.
Yeah.
But if you look at focus on feelings first, that's F off. Right, so this is my F-off approach to health and well-being, you know. Now, my academic colleagues think, oh, you can't put that in the title, right? I don't care what they think anymore, because most people I talk to who are sort of non-academic, ordinary people, if you like, the normal people, you know, they think it's fantastic, you know. So this is Dr. Joe's F-off approach to health and happiness, right? And the F-off stands for focus on feelings first.
I love it. How did you come up with that, or did it just?
It just popped in my head, mate. Honestly, this is what happens to me. I get these sort of intuitive and inspirational thoughts that come in, like chromatooptogenetics and psychoneuroendocrinoimmunohematology. You know those words? They just like pop into my head, right? And I think, who's telling me? Who's talking?
I don't know if I can let you go without explaining that for a dumb man person. What do those words mean?
Well, you see, people ask me, what are you? What do you do? Because, you know, I can't get my head around it. And so I say, it's quite easy, really. You know, I'm a psychoneuroendocrine, you know, I work in the field of psychoneuroendocrinoimmunohematology, Well, what's that then? It just means everything's connected. The way that you think in your mind affects your body, and what your body does affects your mind. And they say, well, why didn't you say that in the first place? Right. And that's what I've learned now, Ryan, more than anything else, mate. And this is to everybody who listens and stuff like that. What I was shown is the simplest technique in the world. It's to put your hands on your heart and to feel the pressure of that, not too much of a pressure, and then breathe a wonderful, caring, gentle type feeling, as though you care for yourself. You breathe it in, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you practice that and you do that for 3 10-minute sessions a day, I swear to you, right, that your life will change for good purpose and positive benefit, right? And this is something that I came to myself, but I've realized there's an organization in America, it's called Heart Math, okay? And they've got loads of information. I came to this and then got to Heart Math and thought, well, we're doing the same sort of thing here. So I'm not stealing their techniques or anything, but I would say that they're much further along the line than I am with all the information they've got, you know. So I'd say to people, rather than, you know, go and look at Heart Math, because they've got lots of information on this stuff, you know.
Well, that was my next question. I've taken up more time than I've asked for. You've been overly generous.
No problem.
And it's very cool to see that your old man was from Dublin. I'm assuming you've had a trip to Dublin once or twice in your life before.
Oh, indeed. Well, my mum's side come from County Mayo, and my dad's side come from the Dublin area. You know, so I've been brought up in the good old Celtic tradition all my life, and that influenced me in very positive ways, but also very negative ways as well.
Well, actually, funny enough, I was born in Leicestershire, and my parents moved back home to Ireland, so I was born there, but I spent my whole life here. If people want to learn more, you've mentioned Heart Math. I'll put the link to that in the description. How can people connect with you if they'd like to get in contact?
Well, at the moment, my academic side of things, I'm 65 now, so I'm switching roles now, and I'm doing more independent consultancy type things, you know. So if they want to just go onto my website, there's some links on there really. And the website's just simply drjoedelaney.com. So drjoedelaney.com. And I'm working on sort of improving that, but you know, I'm getting around to this sort of stuff because I'm transitioning myself away from the more head-worked academic stuff into more talking to people straight like this, you know, or in bigger groups and things like that.
So you've also got a book coming out maybe 2021, 2022 as well.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I loved your F off analogy, and I've taken down some notes here on rawsome and raw authentic as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. If anybody wants to learn more, go to drjoedelaney.com, and I'll leave all the links in the description. Joe, thank you very much.